Alrighty, here for our bonus match. I would love to play first. Can't really go wrong with two brainstorms and a bunch of fetch lands. It's hard for your hand to actually end up being bad after this. So generally, especially when I have a lot of lands, I like cracking a fetch and shuffling in the extra duel. Because then we're down a fetch land and we have an extra land in our deck in case we end up drawing a bunch of other fetches. So we're just going to play this. Going to try not get wastelanded, and we don't really mind if we get stifled since we have a ton of lands. And Sensei's Divining Top is a big game, but we're just going to let that fly. And we're going to get a Volcanic because we might brainstorm into Probe Therapy. So, you know, we're going to want to be able to fetch a black duel after this. But I'm not going to brainstorm until my next turn to see an extra card. And to make sure that I get to shuffle 2 away. And I guess they kind of started playing Daze now. So I should play my land first. Alright, so we don't have the Probe. And we do have a Daze for their counterbalance. But if they force it through, that's going to be bad. Come on, pup. Get up here. Come on. There you go. So I'm going to Therapy for counterbalance. Even though that might mean that my Daze is no longer live. They did think for a little bit. I'm trying to figure out if that actually means anything or not. I'm also not sure that they actually have counterbalance. I don't know. I kind of want to name Force of Will here. I feel like that's a card that my opponent could pretty reasonably have. And sure, they could reasonably have a counterbalance too, but I don't know. I think if they were like trying to bluff Force of Will, they would have waited more than like the half a second than they did. So I don't know. I'm just going to name counterbalance, even though it might make my days dead. Yeah, force. Yeah, that's why. Ah, that's why they thought for a while. All right. We'll snip this thing. Bang. And we will pass the turn. That explains like the short pause, right? Because oh, they don't have a land, they have a Ponder. I'm going to daze that Ponder. Oh, they drew a land. It's so sick. Alright, we'll try this again. Yeah, so they thought for a little bit, but didn't want to think too long because they didn't want me to name Force of Will. But they were considering countering it because I might name Force of Will. But man, if I name Force there, whew, get wrecked. So we're kind of set up pretty nicely. We have a stocked graveyard, a couple dig through times in hand. Gotta be able to work through our opponent's Force of Wills, and that just means finding a Snapcaster, Young Pyromancer, or Baleful Strix. We don't need another dig, especially since like we draw a dig and then we have to draw another land. So, ew. That is a good one. And my opponent's not doing anything too scary either. They're a ways off of Jace, and maybe they could find counterbalance. I guess that'd be bad. But they found a land. And we just found the other dig through time anyway. And I guess I'm not gonna dig upkeep because there's not really a whole lot of point in trying to fight the counter war now. Like, it's entirely possible my opponent actually draws into a counterbalance, and then I'm gonna want to start a war over that. Gotta trust your intuition. I don't know why my intuition was saying Force of Will, but it was. Maybe I should have listened. There's the counterbalance. This is likely going to get forced, pitching Jace. My opponent might have another blue card on top. Oh, force pitching force. Okay. So, opponent's hand is Jace Terminus. Drawing a card in response. That's weird. Another force. Okay. Well, that is bad times. So, counterbalance is in play. My opponent has a top on top. And this is basically how you lose game one, is let them get counterbalance top. Did the best I could. Oh, if I named force, it would have been so much easier. But oh well. Ooh. Okay. Okay. Fate Seal your top to the bottom. Hopefully you don't have another one. Gas. What a great draw. Ooh, that's pretty good too. Alright, so now we have the option of just trying to run this Jace home, and I think that's what we're going to go with. So this would have been my opponent's third card down from the top. From when they activated top, so it's likely that this is a cheap spell. Maybe it's something they actually want to draw, maybe not though. I don't know. But regardless, it might just be better to have the information, and Jace is certainly a card that we want to stop. Like, we don't really want our opponent drawing that one. We do have the force to fight it, and that could mean that we get to resolve dig through time, but I'm just gonna dig right now. So then we get to know our opponent's next card. Unless they're not playing dig. Ooh, entreat. That could be good. So I like the Wasteland. The rest of these aren't great. So we're probably gonna have to force this entreat. So I kind of want like a crappy card to force away. So I think Probe is the one. And then we can waste our opponent down to 2 land. Opponent just didn't cast the entreat? Oh, I could just bounce it with Jace. That makes sense. But still, I mean, I don't know. That seems worse than just putting it in your hand. Oh, they have like a Vendilion or something. Well, we're going to waste you now. If you have Vendilion, you're going to want to cast it. Nope, just weird draw step businesses going on here. Alright. Do we care about the Misty? I guess, since if they don't have any lands, we're kind of doing okay. And it's another thing that could potentially mess up our Jace. So we'll save this Kolagon's command for any random creature that could attack our Jace, and yeah, they're just going to concede. So yeah, that was kind of a weird game. Blew it with the therapy on turn 1 probably, and then just peel the Jace, which is, like I said, the best draw. So in come the Sulfurs. I assume that they have Pyroblast basically every time, so it's kind of weird for them to not. And then I want the Needles and the Spell Bombs. And it is not uncommon for me to side out a Pyromancer in this matchup. So Pyromancer and a Bolt are a couple easy ones on the chopping block. I generally want to keep Enforces in this matchup because there's only a few certain things that matter. And yeah, they saw days. So I think it's these four. So I don't have any direct answers to Monastery Mentor outside of Sulfur Elemental. So it's possible that if they play a Mentor, I play a Sulfur Elemental, and then they remove my Sulfur Elemental. They get to kind of go ham with that, but hopefully that just doesn't happen. And then the Strixes are good with Therapy, and they're good at blocking Vendilion and Snapcaster, so I don't mind those. It's possible I should keep in one Bolt, but whatever. We'll see what happens. This is a pretty good one. I have Graveyard Hate, I have a Threat, I have a Force of Will, I have Ponders, Ample Manas. Do we want another Force of Will? Not really. Wasteland's kind of juicy against this Tundra. I need to stockpile, like, some Pyroblasts, I think. Ugh, not Young Pyromancers. Not Young Pyromancers. Well, I resolved. I'm not sure if I should be happy or kind of scared, because that could mean that they just have another one to jam. They don't mind 2-for-1ing me. But even if they have another counterbalance, we have a Pyromancer in play already, so it's not super scary. Yep. So may also have Pyroblast backup, which is kind of terrifying. And at this point, I'm just jamming, because we're not really going to win any other way. Opponent doesn't even bother revealing. So that is also terrifying. We need to find a blue card. And then we could potentially protect these from a Terminus or something. Alright, so it goes right through the draw steps, so no miracle. Alright, there's our blue card. Could also potentially cast Force of Will if we find another land. I'm not going to play this Nile Spellbomb because they have counterbalance top. If I had, like, another 2-mana spell that I wanted to force through, or, like, you know, maybe I play Spellbomb, they try and draw a card with top, and then in response I can Pyroblast their counterbalance, that might be worth it, but we'll see if that situation comes up. Well, we beat this last time. Yep, just gonna let that happen. I would not be shocked if my opponent had a Pyroblast, so this Force of Will is actually not super valuable. They chose to not shuffle, and then they fetched. Well, that would be good if not for the counterbalance, but here's the spot where maybe I would want this to be a Hydroblast. But this is actually fine because it just gives me enough stuff to actually kill them. Yep. That's game! Just make a bunch of tokens. Yeah, Hydroblast would have been slightly better there, I guess. So, as it ended up working, my opponent had the Reb, then I got the Beb. Just got enough things. But yeah, that was definitely a spot where Hydroblast would have been better. So, counterbalance top, you are very, very good, but ultimately you are beatable.